What's up, guys? Welcome back to Project Freelance. My name is Kay Anagonio. If you have not heard my voice before, thank you for clicking on this podcast. I hope you enjoy it. This week, I'm going to be talking about how I made my photography book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. I just finished a book, man. I just finished my first book. It's a photography book, a coffee table book, and hopefully after you hear this podcast, hopefully after you watch this video, if you're watching, you'll want to check out my book. No, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to help you guys out. So first of all, if you're new to the podcast, hello, hi, this is Project Freelance, a podcast about freelancing. I have guests on almost every week to talk to you about what they do as a freelance, whatever it is. I've had filmmakers on here. I've had photographers on here. I've had a guy that makes rings on here. I've had a rocket photographer. I've had so many different kinds of people on here. I had Preston from Solid Gigs, which is a website where freelancers can get jobs online. So I've had so many different kinds of people on here, a bunch of musicians and some YouTubers. So typically I don't actually film the podcast. Typically it's just audio, and I'll make a graphic and I'll put that graphic over the podcast and I'll upload that to YouTube. And by the way, if you're listening to this, the podcast is now available on YouTube as well. I'll put a link in the description to it if you want to check it out. If you prefer to maybe watch it on YouTube or listen to it there. Like I said, they're not all videos. Actually, there's very few videos of myself actually talking on camera. It's usually just audio with a graphic over top, and that's it. So because I typically don't have my guests on video when I record the podcast, we do audio only because I use Skype to record the podcast. And so using video on Skype and trying to record it makes the video lag, and Wi-Fi is not really that predictable. Like, I don't know how their Wi-Fi is going to be. So to try to video chat just makes it more risky, and I'd rather just get the audio as clean as possible for the podcast. So typically I don't have guests on video. Very few times I've actually done that, but I wanted to especially make a video with this one to put on the YouTube channel because it is such a visual thing. And I'm talking about how I made my photography book, and I feel like I need to show people the photography book while I'm talking about this because I feel like it's going to help you create your photography book. I actually looked up on iTunes today to see, or Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it, to see if there were any podcasts about how to make a photography book, and I didn't see any. And so I figured, why not make a podcast? Because if I searched for it, there's got to be other people out there searching for it, right? So that's what I wanted to do. So here is that podcast. I made a list of 5 things you need to do to create your own photography book. 5 steps you need to take to create your own photography book. I hope you enjoy this, and let's just dive right into it. I'm going to open this Dr. Pepper real quick. Dr. Pepper's coming out with a comic book about how Dr. Pepper was created, and I need 7 copies of it, please. 1 for every day of the week. So the first step in making your photography book, first thing you got to do is take some photos. I mean, I feel like that's a no-brainer. I feel like that's an obvious statement, but you need to take photos to put in your photography book. Like I said, I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but you wanted steps. These are the steps you got to take. The first step is take the photos. You got to get the content. You have to create the content that you want to put into your photography book, right? And here's the thing. You can go with a theme like I did with No Tracers and Urban Explorer's Diary. This is all themed. The theme is abandoned places, abandoned locations that I've been to around the world, all over the place, from the United States to Portugal to Canada. And I wanted to go with a theme of abandoned photography. And here's the thing. I actually went about this a little bit differently. I didn't consider making a photography book until I had accumulated just hundreds and thousands of photos from abandoned places all over the place. And I was like, yo, why don't I just print these out and put them into a coffee book table? coffee table book. I always do that. I don't know why. I think I have like word vomit whenever it comes to saying that one phrase, a coffee table book. Yeah. So I thought, why not make a coffee table book? And then I can sell basically prints of my photos with stories to people, and I can make money off of these photos that I took in these abandoned places where I, typically didn't make money going into. And some of these places I actually did, make money when I went in there because I was doing it for like a background for a photo shoot for an artist or for a product or whatever it was. So some of these places I did actually make money while I was in, but for the most part, I didn't make any money going to these places. And so I had just accumulated all these photos, and I thought, man, I ought to just put these in a book. So you can have a theme if you want. You can do anything you want. Like literally, when you're creating your content, you need to pick a theme, whatever it is. And if you already have the content like I did, you're already one step ahead. You don't have to create the content. You've already created it. So maybe for you, maybe you have 500 photos of weddings and you want to make a coffee table book of the weddings you've done. First of all, you need to figure out like permission and all that stuff, because weddings are a different thing. Abandoned buildings, they're abandoned buildings. You know what I mean? Like nobody gives a shit at the end of the day. Like nobody cares. And the only thing that I would say is try to stay away from photos of like where the main subject is graffiti. You don't necessarily want to feature, like if you go and want to make a photography book about abandoned buildings as well, or street photography, watch out for using graffiti, because you can run into like legality issues from those artists. Say like an artist picks up your book and they say, oh my God, that's my graffiti on the wall right there. You owe me money now because it's in your book and you're making money off of it. And that may not happen most of the time. Like you can just say like, yo, do you want a copy of the book? I'll give you a free copy of the book, and they're happy with that, or they'll ask you to credit them in the future prints of the book, whatever. But just try to stay away from that in the beginning if you're going with like the street photography, or if you're going with abandoned places. Watch out for graffiti and stuff like that. The other thing is like your subject, like if it's people, you might want to get permission from those people. The only people that are in my book, I blurred most of their faces, and the ones who are seen, their faces are kind of hidden. Like one of them's wearing a hat, one of them's looking away, and I blurred the side of his face, things like that. Try to like darken the image maybe, but they're also friends of mine that I know are okay with being in the book. They don't mind. So it's not really that big of a deal, but for some instances, for example, like I was going to say, or like I said, weddings, if you're going to do a book on weddings or babies or people, especially people, or maybe even architecture, you might need to get releases from these places. You might need to get releases from the people or the buildings. Like if you're doing architectural photography, I don't know legally, I don't know what the rules are. So I would consult a lawyer. I have no idea. Because I didn't need to look into it for this, because again, abandoned buildings, nobody cares. So yeah, when it comes to your subject, just watch out for that. Definitely watch out for that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Do you want to have it based on locations? Like, do you want to do multiple locations? Do you want to do one place? Like for No Tracers, for an Urban Explorer's Diary, I'm doing places in the United States that I've traveled to, and I'm doing a place in Canada, 2 places in Canada, and I'm doing a place in Portugal. And I really wanted to feature the international stuff because my next book that I do, I want it to be all international explorations. I've done very few of those, and I want to do more of them. So that's kind of like the goal for the next book. I want to do all international stuff. So it's kind of like a teaser at the end. I have an abandoned paper mill in Canada. It looked like a Call of Duty map. So I wanted to include that because I thought it was really cool. It looks like a Call of Duty map from above. I took a drone photo. And then the other international place is this abandoned panoramic restaurant in Portugal, in Lisbon. So I wanted to include that as well. It was a super cool exploration. So do you want to have locations? Do you want it to be one location? Like, these are all things that you got to think about when you are in the first stages of your project. And the more photos you take, the easier it will get. The first step is to just start making the content, really. So number 2 is to get a template. Find how you're going to put this beast together. What are you going to use? Are you going to use Photoshop? Are you going to use, and I highly recommend InDesign, Adobe InDesign. If you guys need Adobe software, there's a link down in the description. Actually, students get 60% off, 60% off of Adobe products. So if you need InDesign or Lightroom or Photoshop or After Effects, Premiere, any of that stuff, you can get, just check the link in the description. Follow the directions, do the things, sign up, pay monthly. It's great. So InDesign, that's what I used personally. So I'm just going to talk about InDesign because I can't really advocate for any other products or any other companies. So in InDesign, I downloaded a template. Well, not in InDesign. I went to a third-party source online and I downloaded a template, an InDesign-based created template. I don't remember where I got it. I feel like I got it on Video Hive. They have like Graphic River. They have templates. I don't know if I got it from there though. I might have gotten it from DeviantArt, to be honest with you. I might have just gone to DeviantArt and searched InDesign template and something popped up. I think that might have been where I got it from, to be completely honest with you, but I just don't remember because I started this thing like last year. I started constructing this book 6 months ago. So it's been a little while since I got that template. But yeah, so get a template. It's the easiest thing to do because then you already kind of have a layout and you can customize the layout. So find a template you like and customize it, make it your own. You don't have to just stay to the grid and stay exactly how they made theirs because they already made theirs. You want to make yours. You want to make it different. So feel free and definitely play around with it and get to know the template and customize the template. That's the best thing about After Effects templates too, is when you start to like unravel how these templates were made, you can then start to customize them and do other things with them. And it's amazing. So I'm sorry that I can't remember where I got the template from, but yeah, I just got it online. I think I paid for it. I think I paid like $14 for the template, which is a great deal because you're going to be making money off of this. So you need a template that works. So get a template, or maybe you don't want a template. Maybe you just know exactly how you want to do it. Okay, you can do it. You can make it yourself, in Photoshop or in InDesign or whatever. And I'm sure there's videos on how to actually construct these things on YouTube. If you just search how to make a photography book template or something like that, how to edit a template, things like that, you can learn how to make your own photography book that way. These are just the steps you need to take overall to get a photography book made. So I actually, when I was making my photography book, I paid for my first photography book ever. This is the first photography book of anybody else's I've ever bought, and it's No Limits by Nightscape. Nightscape is another YouTuber on the platform. He does a lot of rooftoping, and he travels a lot, and he makes YouTube videos of all of his explorations. And Nightscape, I would love to have you on the podcast to talk about No Limits. If you want to, it would be great. I would love to talk to you not only about No Limits, but I want to also talk to you about freelancing and how you get all these gigs with like North Face UK and all that kind of stuff with your photography and your filmmaking. So yeah, if you want to be on the podcast on Project Freelance, I would love to have you on as a guest, man. I loved your photography book and it was a huge part of me making my photography book. So thank you for making it. Seriously. So yeah, I bought No Limits and this book is awesome. It's full of like how he got started in parkour and all of his explorations all around the UK, all around the world, and how he has gone through so much shit and how he's just succeeded at creating this following for his photography and for his filmmaking and his travels and his craziness that he does. And he talks about in his book why he loves doing what he does, why he loves being up high and on rooftops and things like that. And as an explorer myself, I really wanted to get this book and check it out. So definitely I would recommend that if you're looking for something, if you're looking for just an option, if you're looking for something else to reference, another photography book. I also have here Discovering the John Muir Trail, which is a hiking and photography book about how to survive. And if you guys have seen Free Solo, it's a film about this guy who free solo climbs El Capitan, which is the mountain or one of the mountains that is featured in this book. And the photos in this book were taken by a friend of mine. And wow, look at that photo. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, these photos were taken by a friend of mine, and I really wanted, he helped put this book together, and that was another one, like reading the stories about how they survived on this trail and the things you need to know if you're going to try to survive on the trail. And not only that, but the photos that went with it were absolutely stunning and awe-inspiring, honestly. And so that book definitely was really, really awesome to read. And so I read that one when I was creating my photography book. And then lastly, I'm a huge lover and would love to work for Nat Geo. So I look at Nat Geo all the time. I grew up reading Nat Geo and looking at the photos in the Nat Geo magazines. And man, they're like photography books in every issue. It's a photography magazine. That's literally what it is. It's a photography magazine. So if you're looking for inspiration, I definitely highly recommend you checking out Nat Geo. And I can't wait to work for you guys, Nat Geo. I really can't. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm super excited about it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. I'm going to give it a three-year goal. Within 3 years, I will film something with Nat Geo or for Nat Geo. I'm putting it in the universe. 3 years from now, it'll have been done. Time just hasn't caught up yet. I've already done it. All right. So yeah, definitely look at other examples when you are making your photography book. It helps out a lot. If you want to use mine as a reference, I would love that, obviously. But yeah, definitely check other photography books. I went to the library. I went to Barnes & Nobles. I went to a bunch of different places and looked at a bunch of books and a bunch of examples when I was making my photography book. You just have to be committed to it. Like if you're going to do this, you got to do it the right way. And I think I did it the right way. I think I did it pretty damn well. So that's why number 3 is design. You got to design the thing. You got to customize the template. Like I said, you got to make it your own. You got to figure out, are you going to do it all in black and white? Are you going to do it in color? What are you going to do? You could do it in sepia if you wanted to. I don't know. You got to, what is the mood? What is the tone? What are the colors of the pages, the backgrounds of the pages, things like that. And this will all come as you create the book. I think this is a very natural thing. You see something, you're like, maybe I want this background to be a different color. And then you can just change it and make it your own. You know what I mean? And that's the most exciting part, is that nobody is telling you how to make your book. This is something you're doing for yourself. And we're talking about self-publishing here for now. We'll talk about publishing here in a minute. But for self-publishers, you're making this thing yourself. This is your baby. You can do whatever you want with it. It's like a podcast. There's no rules here. There are no rules in this space because nobody has made rules for it, which is exciting. So you can do whatever you want with your self-published book. Keep that in mind. Oh, do you want the photos to take up the entire page? Or do you want them to take up a little bit of the page, half the page, a quarter of the page? Do you want to have text? Do you want to have writing? Do you want to have stories? Do you want to have diary entries? Do you just want to have photos? These are all things you got to think about. Do you want to have page numbers? I thought it was going to automatically put page numbers on it, but it did not. So I've had to go back into my book. This is the draft version. I've had to go back into my book and add the page numbers because there are going to be 84 pages in my book, and I feel like you need page numbers, especially if you have a table of contents, which I do. So yeah, you've got to, if you've never made a book before, if you never had English class growing up, look up just look at other examples of photography books and see how they're making theirs. And if they have a table of contents, it's probably a good idea for you to have a table of contents. You know what I mean? Look at other books that have been successful. One set of books that I wish I had gotten when I was making my photography book, the books that Seth Lawless has made. He's another urban explorer. He explores abandoned places as well. And he's actually on the road right now, sponsored by BMW, like making a TV show or web series about exploring abandoned places all over America. And that's like my dream. I'm super jealous of him. He's gone to some really cool places. He has a couple books out that I wish I had checked out. I'm going to check them out. I just haven't yet. But the book's done now. So, I can't go back in time and read his books, but they probably would have helped a lot. All right. So number 4 is the stage I'm in right now. So I am in the proofing stage. I am in the proofreading stage. I'm in the editing stage. I am in the final stages, the pre-ordering stage. I'm in the final stages of, my book being completely 100% finished. And this stage is super important. You have a couple things you need to consider. Do you want to hire someone to edit your book? Do you want to edit your book yourself? Do you want to have somebody review the book? Do you want people to read it before the public gets a hold of it? You know what I mean? And for me, as an urban explorer, I had to consider, what would the community want? What would the urban exploration community want in a book? Because I know they're going to check it out. You know what I mean? I want them to check it out. I want them to be a part of it. And I would love to collaborate with some other urban explorers on other photography projects and books and things like that. Zines would be cool to do. I would love to just collaborate more with people in general. So if you're out there and you create photography and you want to collaborate on a photography book, let me know. I would love to do more. It was really fun to do this, and I would love to do it again. So when it comes to proofing, I tried to get an editor, but it didn't really work out. So I decided to edit my book myself. It's my first book. I can always, on the next print, I can change whatever I want. That's the thing with a book. You can keep changing it. You can continue to change it. Just keep your template. You know what I mean? Save everything. So with a book, you can change it. With a video on YouTube, unfortunately, you can't re-upload the video file, which I think YouTube should implement that. I think you should be able to replace the video file. Like if you have a copywritten song, you should be able to replace the entire video and take that song out. You know what I mean? I don't know why they haven't implemented that. You can do it on SoundCloud. You can replace the audio file on SoundCloud, things like that. But anyway, that's whatever. With a book, you can actually change it. So if you in the future can afford an editor, can get an editor, maybe have them edit it and send that to the printer, and that'll be your second round of printing. Listen, there are multiple editions of books all the time, okay? It's just a part of making books. You make a new edition. It's fine. That's a part of it. It's an amendment, basically. So don't be afraid to edit yourself. I edited everything from my writing in school to all the videos I create, so I'm just used to editing my own stuff, and I know what I want it to sound like. So I'm happy with it. So I personally didn't get a separate editor. That's just my personal preference. I'm happy with the book, but I got this draft and I went in with sticky notes, and I literally wrote the mistakes on sticky notes and how to fix them. And I put the sticky notes all throughout the book, and I went back into my InDesign template and I implemented all the changes. And one of the main changes that I made to the book was I decided to take out some of the details about how I got into some of these places, because some of these places are still active, and we don't really, as a community of urban explorers, we don't really like to talk about how we get into these places because we don't want to burn our spots. We don't want people to ruin the spots for us. You know what I mean? We don't want them to go destroy property and spray paint and fuck up everything. So we don't really talk about how we get into places. So that's something I really edited out of here. There was also one instance where I talk about a place and how you can get in touch with the place to ask permission. I decided not to do that because I don't want people calling them and berating and calling them all the time to try to figure out how to get in and shit. It's just, if you want to figure out how to get into these places, you can figure it out yourself. You know what I mean? I don't want to give you all the answers in this book. I feel like the Urbex community wouldn't like that. They wouldn't appreciate that. I feel like it's disrespectful. So I decided to take that stuff out. Some of the locations I'm deciding to take out, unless it's like a notorious place, I'm pretty much taking the location out. But yeah, that's proofing. You have to proof your stuff. You have to edit it. You have to get a draft of it. It's nice to get a physical draft of your book in your hand so you can like actually feel it tangibly and see like, oh my God, I actually made a book. Like this is my book. I made a book. Like it's the most satisfying feeling to be able to hold your photography in your hands. We don't get to do that anymore because everything is digital. That's why making a photography book is so cool, because you are printing out your photos for maybe the first time. It's my first book, so this is my first time doing it, and it's absolutely amazing. I've had a blast creating it, and I can't wait to make more. You also want to make sure everything's obviously in sharp and everything is sharp and in focus in your book. I had a couple of photos that were out of focus, so I decided to cut them from the book, or replace them, if you will. So that's something that's super important with proofing. And number 5, the last thing I'm going to say is, this is the promoting, the marketing, the publishing step. This is your releasing your baby out into the world to blossom and grow. So make some promos. Make promos for your photography book. Take your photography book to a location and take photos of it. Make videos about it. Film some cool stuff. Get somebody to help you. I had my friend Chamo help me make my promo videos, and they turned out great. We made a bunch of promos in these abandoned places. I took the book to a bunch of abandoned places, and I filmed myself walking around these abandoned places, finding my book in these abandoned places. And then at the end, there's a link to go get the book, and it's all Urbex themed, and that's exactly what you want in your promo. You want it to fit the theme of the book. If you're doing wedding photos, maybe set up a wedding ceremony situation and have the book be the subject of that video. There are really cool ways you can promote your photography books, and most of them have to do with just filming really cool videos about your book and putting your book in really cool locations and taking photos and videos of that book in those places. That's pretty much it. And the cool thing about a book is that you can put it in your backpack and take it with you and just pull it out whenever you want to take a photo of it. And that's the coolest thing. I just take my book with me everywhere now, and I just take photos of it in these abandoned places. I've been to like 4 or 5 different abandoned places with the book, so I just continue to make promos and promos and promos, because that's what I do when I go there anyway. I just film content. So because I make YouTube videos about exploring these abandoned places, so I also have like a behind the scenes video of how I made the promos for my book. If you want to see that, you can go down in the description. There's a link in the description if you want to go watch the behind the scenes of making my promos, just for more context and an idea of how I made my promo videos. It's actually kind of cool. So if you're into like behind the scenes stuff, go check that out on the Just the Letter K YouTube channel. And then you gotta do your marketing. You gotta do Instagram posts, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You gotta post you gotta make people know about it. People gotta know that it exists. So you gotta get it out there on social media. Use hashtags that are relevant to your book, that are relevant to the style, the theme. So I'm doing all of my known urban exploration tags: abandoned places, urbex explore, IG_urbex. There's like all these hashtags that you can use that will help people find your product, that will help people find your book. So post often. And right now I'm in the pre-order stage. So I've sold 4 books, you guys. I've sold a whopping 4 books. But that's 4 more than I thought I was going to sell. I didn't think anybody was going to buy it because it's $60. My book is $60, and here's the reasoning why. You have to figure out what the value of your product is. What is the value of your photography book? Is it $20? Is it $40? Is it $60? Is it $80? How much is your photography book worth? What is the value of it? And the reason I value my book at $60 is because, first of all, it's $47 to print 1 copy. Yeah, that's not very much profit, but it's more profit than I would get with going with a publisher. So yeah. So it's expensive to print photography books. That's why mine is that's why the price is what it is, because I have to make a profit off of it. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? You know what I mean? I'm not just going to give this stuff out for free. It's $47 to print one book. So I got to make a profit. And there's probably a cheaper way or a cheaper place to get it printed from. I just haven't found it yet. I'm using BookBaby. For anybody that wants to know, I'm going through BookBaby to print my books. And they were one of the cheapest and easiest platforms to use. So that's why I went with them. And they offer free shipping or $30 DHL, like next day delivery shipping, which is really cool. I'm not going to pay $30 to get my book shipped to me, though. I'm going to definitely save $30 on that and get free shipping. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got to figure out if you want to self-publish. Do you want to go with a publisher? Maybe you want to reach out to a couple of publishers and see if they're interested. That might help you out getting more sales. It just depends on what you want to do. I want to try self-publishing. I want to see if I can do it. I want to see if I can sell 200 copies. I think that would be sick. And it might take 5 years to sell 200 copies, but I want to sell 200 copies. Most books sell 250 copies or less. So I first want to set a goal to sell 200 copies. I think that would be sick if I could do that. That's a lot. That's a lot of books. You know, that would be amazing to sell 200 copies. We'll see where we get. I don't know. Maybe some people that watch this video will want to see what my photography book is all about. That would be super cool. But yeah, you got to figure out if you want to self-publish or go with a publisher. Again, that's up to you, whatever you want to do, whatever your preference is. So yeah, those are 5 tips for creating a photography book. I hope that these tips helped you out. I hope you have much success with the creation and the selling of your photography book. And I would like to hear from you in the comments below what photography book you're going to make, what it's going to be about, what is the theme, how are you going to promote the book, are you going to use a template, you know, basically answer like those 5 things. Like, are you going to go with using a template? Are you going to get an editor? What are you going to do to create your photography book? What steps are you taking right now to create your photography book? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this podcast, please be sure to give it a rating of 5 stars and leave a review. Tell people why you like the podcast so that other people that are looking for podcasts to listen to may come across it, see your review, and say, hey, I'm going to check out this podcast. Thank you guys for listening this week. I will talk to you again next week for another episode of Project Freelance. Stay strong, keep enduring, and go create something.